Have you ever felt it, the quiet ache that follows you through every day? The restless pull that tells you to explain yourself, to justify your choices, to chase after recognition that never seems to arrive. It creeps in softly at first, like a whisper in the back of your mind, but it grows louder with each encounter, each perceived slight, each moment when the world ignores you. And yet, what if I told you that the power you seek is not in the explanations you offer, not in the attention you demand, not in the frantic chase after approval? What if true mastery lies in doing the opposite, in stepping back, observing quietly, and letting your silence speak with a force that no words could ever match? Consider the lives of those who have surrendered to this truth, not the loud, the desperate, or the constantly visible, but those who move through the world like still waters, unshaken by the opinions of others, unconcerned with proving themselves, and entirely sovereign within their own minds. The Stoics taught that external approval is fleeting, a shadow we can never fully grasp, yet most of us, unconsciously, spend our lives bowing to it. We chase, we plead, we explain, and in doing so we surrender the very thing we seek, our dignity, our peace, our freedom. The irony is simple and profound. The more you grasp for validation, the further it slips away. Pause for a moment. Reflect on your own life. How often have you repeated the cycle? How many hours, days, even years have you spent chasing attention, begging for acknowledgement, explaining yourself to ears that could not understand? And for what? A fleeting nod, a temporary smile, a shallow reassurance that disappears as quickly as it came. You may not have noticed, but each moment spent in this pursuit drains something from you. Energy, focus, calm, these are the currencies of life, and they are squandered when you hand them over to forces outside your control. Awareness, however, is the first step toward liberation. Begin by noticing your impulses, the urge to explain, the need to justify, the compulsion to chase. See them as they are, passing clouds in the sky of your mind. Observe them without judgment. Let them rise and fade naturally. In this practice, the stirrings of inner power begin to emerge. For the Stoics, it was never about rejecting life, but about mastering it. Silence, they understood, is not emptiness. It is a tool, a shield, a way of asserting sovereignty over one's own mind. So the journey begins. It begins with the choice to pause, the courage to withhold, and the wisdom to observe. Imagine standing in a crowded room, the voices around you clamoring for attention, each one demanding your response. And yet, you remain still. You do not speak, not out of fear, but out of authority. Your presence alone conveys what words never could. You are unshaken, unbent, and fully alive. This is the paradox of silence. By refusing to chase, beg, or explain, you become magnetic. By restraining your voice, you amplify it. By letting go of external validation, you discover the strength that has always been within you. This is the first lesson. Notice, pause, and let silence begin to claim its space in your life. Your energy, once scattered in pursuit of the world's approval, is now reclaimed. Your mind, once restless, begins to settle, and as the quiet grows within, you begin to sense the shape of the life you were always capable of living, not dictated by the opinions of others, but guided by the calm authority of your own reason, your own presence, your own integrity. Now that you have begun to notice, to pause, and to let silence enter your life, the real work begins. For the world does not stop, the voices do not quiet themselves. The pressures of expectation, both subtle and overt, press against your resolve, and yet it is here, precisely in this tension, that the Stoic finds his advantage. To stop chasing, to stop begging, to stop explaining is not a single act, but a continuous practice. It is the deliberate choice to rise above the impulse that seeks external validation, and instead to ground yourself in what is within your control. Consider how much of your energy has been spent in pursuit of approval. How many words have you offered in vain? How many explanations have you given to ears that were never listening? The mind grows weary under such weight. It is an invisible labor, one that consumes focus, clarity, and the quietude needed to act with wisdom. And yet, in the pause, in the act of restraint, there is revelation. You begin to see that the very things you were chasing were never truly yours to command. Recognition, understanding, agreement, all are gifts freely given or withheld by others. They are fleeting, unreliable, and ultimately irrelevant to the cultivation of your inner life. This realization does not diminish your ambition. It does not demand passivity or resignation. On the contrary, it frees you to direct your efforts where they truly matter toward the development of your own character, the sharpening of your judgment, and the mastery of your responses. To chase is to scatter your force. To beg is to dilute your dignity. To explain is to surrender your authority. Each act of restraint, each moment of deliberate silence, reclaims what is most precious: your autonomy, your composure, your focus. Imagine a life in which the urge to prove yourself is no longer a shadow stalking every decision. Imagine the serenity of knowing that your actions, your thoughts, and your presence are sufficient in themselves. In this life, people notice not because you have shouted or pleaded, but because your calm is compelling. They are drawn to the quiet certainty that cannot be feigned. This is the power of presence, the magnetism of self-possession, and it is forged in the deliberate cultivation of silence. And yet, the challenge is persistent. Temptations to speak, to explain, to pursue will appear. Constantly. Friends may misunderstand you. Colleagues may question your intentions. Opportunities may seem to slip past when you resist the urge to chase. And here the Stoic's strength is tested. Do you act on impulse, surrendering to the noise of the world? Or do you remain steadfast, knowing that the worth of your effort is measured not by external response, but by the discipline of your own mind? The answer is quiet, deliberate, and transformative. Remain silent, remain composed, remain sovereign. This is the turning point where the inner work begins to manifest outwardly. The energy once spent on pleading and chasing is now available for action that is purposeful, precise, and effective. The words you do speak carry weight because they are chosen, not scattered. The attention you give carries impact because it is deliberate, not reactionary. And in the stillness of your restraint, you begin to cultivate something rare in this world, a presence that commands respect without demanding it, a strength that is undeniable because it needs no validation. Silence becomes your teacher. It teaches you to observe without being entangled, to act without being driven by fear or desire, to respond rather than react. Every unspoken word, every withheld argument, every abandoned chase strengthens your mind, hones your judgment, and fortifies your soul. This is not withdrawal from life, but engagement on your own terms. You become the observer and the master, the calm center, amidst the chaos and the source of your own power. And in this new perspective, you begin to understand a deeper truth. The world's judgments are neither good nor evil. They simply are. They are fleeting, like clouds passing across the sky of your life. Your task is not to control them, but to govern yourself, to cultivate silence, discipline, and presence, to stop giving away your power in the form of explanations, justifications, or frantic pursuits, to embrace the quiet mastery that turns absence of action into presence of authority. As your practice of silence deepens, you begin to sense the subtle power it wields not over others, but over yourself. For the temptation to speak, to justify, to chase, never fully disappears. It lingers like a persistent wind, nudging you toward old habits, toward the familiar illusion that your worth depends on others' recognition. The true test of the Stoic lies here, in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when the world cannot reward you, when your impulses beg for expression. This is the crucible of character. Here restraint becomes courage. Here silence is not emptiness, it is discipline, presence, and authority. To stop chasing is to reclaim your energy. To stop begging is to reclaim your dignity. To stop explaining is to reclaim your mind. And yet each of these acts is deceptively difficult. Our culture, our upbringing, even our biology, is wired towards seeking affirmation, towards seeking connection through words and gestures, toward trying to prove ourselves to the world. But the Stoics knew, true strength is not in reaction but in deliberate choice. In choosing restraint, you practice mastery of the self, and mastery of the self is the foundation of freedom. In this practice, silence becomes a mirror. It reflects not only the world around you, but also the inner workings of your own mind. You begin to see the motivations that drive you, the fears that shape you, the desires that mislead you. Each moment, of unspoken word becomes an opportunity to observe rather than act on impulse, to respond with reason rather than react with emotion. The quiet unveils patterns that were invisible in the chaos of constant chatter, and in this observation, clarity emerges. You begin to understand what is yours to control and what is not. The world will continue to call to you. It will demand explanations, insist on responses, tempt you to chase what cannot be held. And yet, your mind grows stronger, more resilient, with each instance of restraint. You discover that the force of your presence is amplified not by words, but by the deliberate withholding of them. Others may misinterpret your silence, they may question your intentions, they may attempt to provoke a reaction, and yet, the Stoic meets this not with frustration, but with calm authority. The silence itself becomes a statement. I do not require your understanding. I do not depend on your approval. I act in accordance with reason, not impulse. This is the paradoxical power of silence. It is at once invisible and undeniable. By refusing to chase, you no longer give your energy away. By refusing to beg, you no longer surrender your dignity. By refusing to explain, you no longer expose yourself to judgment or manipulation. In this refusal, you create space to cultivate wisdom, space to act deliberately, space to observe life with clarity rather than distraction. You become less reactive to the noise around you and more, you attune to the quiet truths within. And yet silence is not a shield from life's trials. It does not exempt you from challenge, conflict, or disappointment. The Stoic path is not one of avoidance, but of engagement on your own terms. Each test, each provocation, each moment when the world demands your energy becomes an opportunity to practice mastery. Your silence is not passive, it is active, intentional, and profoundly strategic. It is the cultivation of power that cannot be taken from you, because it resides entirely within. As you walk this path, you begin to notice subtle changes. Relationships shift, opportunities appear differently. People sense the calm authority in your presence, even if they cannot name it. The world begins to respond, not because you demanded it, but because you no longer required it. And within you, a new confidence grows, not loud, not brash, not dependent on external approval, but quiet, unwavering, and resolute. This confidence is not temporary, it is you, rooted in understanding, discipline, and the mastery of self. Here, in this space of deliberate silence, the Stoic begins to experience freedom, not the freedom of circumstance, but the freedom of mind. The chaos of chasing and explaining loses its grip. The compulsion to prove yourself fades. And in its place, a deep sense of sovereignty emerges. You are no longer at the mercy of the world's judgments, nor are you driven by the need to be understood. You act in accordance with reason, presence, and quiet strength. And in this, you discover that the truest power has always been within you, patiently waiting for your silence to awaken it. As your mastery of silence deepens, the world around you begins to reveal itself in new ways. You start to notice the currents that were invisible before, the subtle urges of those who seek to manipulate, the unspoken tensions in conversations, the fleeting dramas that pull others into chaos. And in these moments, your response is no longer dictated by your reaction or impulse. You observe, you do not chase, you do not explain, you do not plead. Your presence alone carries authority, clarity, and gravity. The Stoic understands that influence is not granted by noise or persuasion, but by composure, self-possession, and the quiet power of restraint. Silence has become more than a practice, it is now a lens through which you see the world. It is as if the clamor of trivial demands has faded into the background, leaving only what truly matters: integrity, reason, and the cultivation of your own character. Opportunities and relationships now approach you in a way they never could when you were desperate for recognition. Doors that once seemed closed swing open, not because you chase them down, but because your focus and restraint signal readiness, competence, and calm authority. People sense the difference even if they cannot articulate it. They are drawn to the strength that does not shout, to the confidence that does not plead. And, yet, the transformation is subtle. It is not in grand gestures or visible triumphs, but in the quiet consistency of your actions and presence. Every unspoken word, every withheld explanation, every abandoned chase adds to your strength, sharpening your judgment and solidifying your character. In the past, your energy was dispersed, scattered across futile attempts to win approval or avoid judgment. Now it is concentrated, deliberate, and inexhaustible. You are no longer at the mercy of others' opinions. Your life is no longer a series of reactions to what others demand. Instead, you move through the world with purpose, intentionality, and an unshakable calm. The Stoic recognizes the paradox. The less you chase, the more life seems to come to you. The more you stop explaining, the more your actions gain meaning. The more you refrain from begging, the more people respect the boundaries and strength you embody. This is not manipulation, it is the natural consequence of alignment with you. Reason, discipline, and self-mastery. Your silence becomes magnetic. It commands attention without demanding it. It draws influence without overt effort. And in this you begin to understand one of life's quietest truths. The world responds not to the frantic, but to the composed, not to the loud, but to the present, not to the desperate, but to the sovereign. Yet mastery of silence does not mean withdrawal from life. It does not mean retreat from responsibility or engagement. On the contrary, it equips you to act with precision and clarity. You become discerning about where your energy is spent, what battles are worth fighting, and which words are truly necessary. You are no longer scattered in pursuit of validation, but focused on what matters. Every interaction, every decision, every moment is approached with calm deliberation and unwavering presence. And in this, you cultivate a rare, enduring power, the power of influence rooted not in ego, but in wisdom, not in demand, but in you, authenticity not in noise, but in silence. And so the world begins to mirror the change within you. People react differently. Opportunities arise with less effort. Conflicts lose their grip over your peace. Your presence becomes a force not because you seek it, but because you have become whole in yourself. The quiet authority of a mind undisturbed by the need to chase, beg, or explain has a gravity that cannot be ignored. You are no longer defined by external acknowledgement, nor imprisoned by fleeting approval. You are unstoppable not by action alone, but by the power of deliberate silence, the mastery of your own thoughts, and the discipline of self-restraint. At last, you arrive at the quiet summit of understanding. To stop chasing, to stop begging, to stop explaining, is to reclaim what is most vital, yourself. The world may still demand, question, and judge. People may still misunderstand, provoke, or ignore. Yet, none of this can touch the strength you have cultivated within. Silence is no longer merely the absence of words. It is a presence, a shield, a declaration that your life is guided not by others' expectations, but by reason, discipline, and calm authority. In this mastery, you are untouchable not because you are isolated, but because you are aligned. Every word you no longer speak, every futile pursuit you no longer chase, every plea you no longer offer becomes a building block of your inner fortress. You begin to understand that power is not loud, influence does not plead, and respect is not demanded. The truest victories are invisible. They happen in the quiet corners of the mind, in the steadfastness of character, in the disciplined control of impulses. To master silence is to master life itself, for it reveals a freedom that no circumstance can take away. Freedom from dependency, freedom from distraction, freedom from the tyranny of validation. And here, you notice a subtle but profound change in how the world responds to you. Doors that once you seem closed open effortlessly. Relationships shift into clarity and authenticity. The energy you once poured into chasing others now flows into purpose, focus, and deliberate action. People feel your presence not because you demanded it, not because you explained it, but because it radiates naturally from a mind at peace. This is the Stoics' paradox. By relinquishing the need to prove yourself externally, you gain undeniable power internally. You are unstoppable, not through force, but through alignment with your own reason and virtue. Let this understanding settle deeply within you. You do not need to explain yourself to anyone who cannot see your worth. You do not need to chase what is not meant for you. You do not need to beg for acknowledgement that has no meaning. Every moment spent in silence, every act of restraint, every choice to remain composed is a lesson in sovereignty. Life will still test you, and temptations will still arise. But now, each test becomes an opportunity to exercise mastery, to deepen resilience, and to refine the power that resides quietly but profoundly within you. So, reflect on this path. Let your silence become your superpower. Walk through life with calm authority, deliberate presence, and unwavering focus. And as you continue this journey, let your inner transformation guide not only your actions but also your reflections. For those who seek guidance, for those who wish to cultivate strength in the same quiet, deliberate way, remember this: you are not alone on this path. If these truths resonate with you, join us at Built by Stoicism. Subscribe, not for applause, not for acknowledgement, but for the shared pursuit of inner mastery. Let each lesson guide you toward freedom, discipline, and unshakable presence. Let your silence teach you what words never could. And above all, let yourself become unstoppable, not by the world's validation, but by the power you have always carried within.